Welcome, everyone, to Exploring Curiosities with the Unbridled Woman. I am very excited and honored to have my guest here today. Usually, I have women on my show, but this beautiful man has come on, and it is my honor to have this platform for him to share his heartfelt message. So, on today's episode, we have Dr. George Ackerman, or as sometimes he likes to be known as Sharon's son, George, because as he said to me just before I pressed record, he does this for his mother and it's not for himself. He is a passionate advocate and a devoted son who turned a personal loss into a powerful movement for change. George is the driving force behind Together for Sharon, a heartfelt initiative created in memory of his mother, Sharon, who courageously battled Parkinson's disease. Through this movement, he seeks to raise awareness about Parkinson's and foster a sense of community, ensuring that no one faces this disease alone. Together for Sharon isn't just an organization or a website, it's a testament to the enduring love between a son and his mother and a commitment to keeping Sharon's memory alive while advocating for a cure. The mission is clear: to spread hope, raise awareness, and inspire others to join the fight against Parkinson's disease. His work reminds us that one person can indeed make a difference, and that together we can bring about positive change. Welcome.
Thank you. I mean, I don't know how to follow that beautiful introduction, but I do
Almost,
want to.
yeah, almost
Start
got me
by.
teary-eyed.
I don't. I want to thank you and your audience for your time and on this important issue. It means the world to me, but also so many others that either lost a loved one due to this disease or people out there still battling and still, hope making sure that they don't feel alone. Unfortunately, we did, and hopefully we can change that today. So I appreciate it again.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for reaching out when I was looking for guests here. And as you know, as I shared with you when we first spoke, my grandmother had she suffered through Parkinson's for many, many years. And gosh, that was back probably, I think she passed maybe in 1989. So she was it was very sad. It was sad for our family just to see that deterioration, and I had never really known exactly what it was she was going through, or I just saw what it had left her as a shell of a person. So I would love for you to, I know you have a lot of going on with your organization. You've talked to so many people and interviewed people, and um, whatever you want to spread about your journey, whether it's being the caretaker for your mom or her journey or what is going on now. I know you have a couple, you mentioned you definitely have a book that's been out for a while and a new one coming up. And yeah, just to share a little bit more about, who you are and why you're doing this for your mom and what that experience was.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I've been an advocate my whole life before entering the world of caregiving, and we just did publish the book. It's on the, I think it's behind me, but I don't know if you can see it. This is it. It's a son's journey. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to write a book, but I was, in my experience, when I was researching, I was shocked to find out that, and I always challenge everyone listening to prove me wrong because I could be, but there isn't one book in the world, like literally the world, that's from a son who lost their mother due to Parkinson's. I was kind of heartbroken again when I saw that because there's so many people who have lost a loved one or fighting today and their families and their communities and need more awareness. I felt alone as a caregiver. My mother surely felt alone as a person going through the diagnosis. But to go back to the beginning, I always had a passion for helping other people. I just didn't know the best way to do it. And I decided to go into the world of criminal justice, partially because it's exciting, partially because it's just felt like I want to do more for others. So
Mm.
I went to law school, became a lawyer in Florida and Washington, D.C., and I worked at the prosecutor's office for an internship, but I found that I wanted to help victims of crime, and they just didn't have the time. There's so many cases, so I was kind of sad in there. Then I decided why not become a police officer. It was interesting because usually you go the other way. So in the academy, they didn't like new people. and they hated lawyers. So that was really a
Oh goodness.
challenge. But, it was a challenge, but it kind of built character and showed me that you never stop fighting for something you believe in, no matter what. So unfortunately, again, I found as a police officer, I'm reserved now. I could do the back issues I have, but so you hand a brochure to someone, you got to go to the next call. And once again, I'm like, this is not, and I want to
Mm,
help more. So I finally had the honor. I fell into the world of education, became a professor, and taught around the world. But it's great because today everything's virtual, like we're talking, which really opens the doors. And I learn so much every day now through my students. But I got lucky and found out that I could do my study, my dissertation, and my PhD was actually on aiding African American mothers who lost their loved one due to murder in West Palm Beach, Florida. So I
oh.
finally had an opportunity to sit knee to knee with about 40 to 80 women who you never unfortunately want to be a part of, but we're grateful they're out there because it's support. And, I got to work with the family members. There's a lot of times that you have a victim, sadly, they're no longer with us, but then the family members become secondary victims. And I
Hmm.
kind of correlate the forgotten part of society for those family members with Parkinson because shifting to a caregiver for my mother, I felt that a lot of people caregiving and going through it are alone, or at least that's how I felt. And that's what started my journey. My mother had Parkinson's for 15 years, but I never even knew what the word. I heard Parkinson. I didn't know it was disease, knew nothing. I don't know if she hid it from us for a while because she wasn't sure, or they just were I mean, 15 professional board certified movement disorder specialists, neurologists said you don't die of Parkinson's, you die with it. So towards the fifth year, she had stiffness in her left arm, and if we have time, I can tell you some of the signs. There's 5 stages if we have time, but
Oh yeah.
anyway, that was one of the major things, but didn't impact her life. Like she still could live alone independently. She was a incredible woman. Never had any medical issues ever. But then it started. So then the fourth year, right before the fourth, she went to a special program for people with Parkinson's, like a trial, because they were out of ideas. Unfortunately, she came home that night, and I got a frantic call from my father in New York. She's divorced, but he said you have to rush over to your mother's house. So I got there 4 a.m., not knowing what to expect. And I found my mother moving her furniture out of her home in fear that there were Nazis inside. So I knew something's not right. I rushed to the
Mm.
hospital. They said we saved her life, but that was really like honestly the end of her kind of life because the 4 years was like a downward spiral. She went from walking a few miles a week to 2 years of a cane, 1 year of a walker, then a wheelchair, and then bedbound for 7 days where she wasn't even alive. She just had a heartbeat. And all this was like shocking. Even today, I'm grieving, and being here with you is why I keep fighting because you inspire me and your audience and just those people out there still fighting and also the communities that are affected. It breaks my heart to have anyone go through what my mother did, but still going through what our family had. Sadly, there's no seat at the table now, many holidays and family things, but I feel that through you and your audience, she lives on, and that's why I do this. We're not an organization on purpose. It's just me, one son who lost his best friend due to this disease, my mother. But we started TogetherForSharon.com thinking 4 or 5 people might see it, and that's great. We've had over 40,000 people visit the site. I don't know if it's because of my work or unfortunately that this is the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease in the world with 1 million people in the US and 10 million around the world. And
Wow.
yeah, I was shocked because I knew it was about 1 million in the US and that was it. Then when I found out there were 10 million around the world, I was like, my heart broke and I decided that it's not about me and my mother anymore only. It's about everyone throughout the world and how we have to fight together or we'll be further from a cure. And that's where our next book, I'm excited to finally, like, this is like, when this airs, this will be first time I've shared it. I All 800 interviews are going to be 1,000 because I can't stop. It's all completely free on the website. So literally, we don't accept money. If you send me money, I have to send it back, which costs me. So please don't. So my big thing is really, and I don't want anything. I just want people to know they're not alone, and I don't want anyone to go through this anymore. I want to end it, find a cure, and that's really my major goal. And it's sad because I'll get people wondering, you can't bring your mother back, so why even bother? And that's another book I'm
Oh,
working on. I'm working on a third one. It's done. I'm just editing it, and it's really about the people. This is, the journey book here is a journey, a son's journey, but it's about my mother and my life. It dedicated to all those today fighting and their families. But this book coming will be dedicated to the millions, in my opinion. I feel like could be even a billion people over the last 100 years who lost a loved one due to Parkinson's. But
right.
some people don't feel like they have a say. 'Cause I don't have Parkinson's right now, no longer a caregiver of someone with Parkinson's, but there's a third category, me. And a lot of the organizations who I love, they have nothing for people like me. And in a way, I feel like when your loved one passes, the door shuts and you're kind of pushed away because no one wants to talk about end of life or that
Hmm.
Parkinson did take my mother. They want to believe that, like the statement that I keep hearing, which kind of makes me a little sad, but everybody has a different journey. But saying that Parkinson, doesn't take your life, you die with it is not true in our case. But again, there's a lot of light and positive that comes from the darkness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I thank you for sharing all that. I was
Sorry, I went too long.
Oh, no, no, no. And I definitely, I do want to find out more because you're so knowledgeable about this disease, probably more so than some doctors even. Yeah, have time to have us, what people could look for. And I mean, there's so many questions I have, and also I can definitely relate to just very recently in my own personal life with my dad passing, and he was told years ago when he got diagnosed with prostate cancer, the doctor said, "You're not going to. This won't kill you." Well, well, it kind of did, even though it metastasized to bone cancer. But that is kind of what started, right? So when you said that, someone would say you die with it, but not from it. I think that's actually a very silly statement. But but I also can relate to when you said like the family members afterwards, because what I see when someone passes is, you know, everyone comes around for those first few days or whatever, right? And gives you some support. And then there's almost like crickets, like they kind of moved on, or it's what I believe sometimes it's their own fear of their own mortality. They don't want to see this, if they address it, then you're actually saying, well, yes, I might get this, or, I might experience this, and I'm afraid, and they don't know how to respond. So I love that you are doing something for the family members who are left behind from this, because not only with the Parkinson's, but other diseases that take their family members. Like there's no set time of grief, right? I mean, it can go on for everyone is different how they process it, and I think it's important that we don't forget the people that we know who've experienced loss. Like they still need support and love and maybe taken care of and need to be listened to, even years after a loved one passed, because it's a traumatic event, and it's you can't just brush it under the rug like it's just life. It's life, but also I think the compassionate way is to spend time and acknowledge that we need to take care of each other.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's an important issue, and that's why I like to tackle. I have a blog with another young lady, and where we tackle tough topics from medical marijuana to almost taboo things like death with dignity. But I think that if you plan and prepare and speak about these things, you're going to have less grief and fighting after. Like the family could even fight over a sweater of the love. It's like some of the things that just nuts. But I do also want to point out that, again, I said it before, but there's so much positive that's come from it. Obviously, I'll always feel like a piece of me is gone when my mother passed. I also feel that she lost 15 years of her life alive and add 15 after, because I think in 2024, maybe I'm wrong, but you should live till 85 or even 90. But again, our journey is different. And that's why I'm excited about the interview book, because it shows 200 people, advocates, those diagnosed around the world, other diseases too. I started covering because not just I want to cure for everything, but it's
Mm.
going to be, and professional doctors are in it. So it's going to be something where it's not just my opinion and my journey and my mother. My wife's journey is actually in the book too. So that was pretty fun. I got to interview her about being a caregiver for my mother. So it's going to be, it's a really exciting time. And again, like I said, I'm hoping to offer the ebook completely free. So there's really no excuse for anyone out there. Please download it for free, share it for free. I just want it to reach the world because in a little bit of way, it'll also help remember my mother, who
Mm.
her life due to this disease.
Yes, yes. So I'm curious as to, because like I said, when my grandmother had it, I was younger, or not young, but I really didn't understand what exactly Parkinson's was, or how you would get it. Do they have any information now, these years later, that kind of like how people are more susceptible? Are certain people more likely to get it, or what have you found out from your interviews and your in this journey?
And we send our love to you and your family, and sorry for your loss. And I hope again one day you'll share your journey. We started a new section. I don't know if you saw, but if you go to togetherforsharon.com now and hit in memory, it's
Yes.
actually it's not as easy. I think I told you because I interviewed 1,000 people who are alive and they're there. Now I'm trying to find families who want to remember me, and I'll make sure that their loved one never forgotten because I don't think they should be. So we've had like 15 people. Muhammad Ali's daughter is there. My journey is there. So it's a lot. It's growing, but it's not as easy. So I really hope to share anything
Mm,
out there. If you lost a loved one, mainly due to Parkinson's, I can't cover others for this one. But I'm sharing journeys for free. And in the third book I'm writing, that actually your journey will be in my books if you approve it, of course. So I'm
mm,
actually interweaving people's journey who lost a loved one into the book, and I can't wait for that. But that'll probably be a year or two from now. So yeah, to answer your question, they do have a breakthrough that they discovered 2 years or a year ago. It's called a biomarker, and discovered through a lot of the funding for the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which I admire a lot. I had the honor to meet with him a few times, but called the biomarker, and I don't want to do it personally, but it's an invasive needle that you can put in the spine, and they might be able to determine if you have Parkinson's. They never had that before. But
oh,
what the dream is to say, well, the dream's the cure, but if we don't have one yet, to take that invasive needle and be able to put into a basic regular blood test and have it in every doctor's office in the world, but they don't have that yet. So it is out there. I haven't done it or this other types of testing because, I mean, if I get Parkinson's, I won't be happy, but I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing. Just
mm,
make it get a little harder. A lot of people who now consider family, some of three of my, in my opinion, best friends who we never even met. We just talk all the time and social media, and we have Zooms once in a while, but they all have Parkinson's. So when I see them posting, they're very active on social media. It's Esther, Melissa, and Mark, if you hear this. But every time I see them struggling, it's like still feel it breaks my heart. And when I was going through a journey with my mother, I didn't have Parkinson's, but a lot similar to my family members who lost a loved one due to crime. I feel like I had, in a way, I coined the term. I wish I could, make shirts and make some money from it, but we're not gonna. But I call it I feel like I had secondary Parkinson's disease because although I wasn't experienced the physical, I still felt the emotional, and I was holding her hand from seeing a woman who was very healthy, like 160 pounds or in great shape, to almost like literally melting away with her flesh. Like I don't even know.
mm,
I turned to almost bones. Like she lost so much weight. Everything. Parkinson doesn't just affect the person; it affects the caregivers, the family, and the community. But for the person struggling, just quickly, I'll say there's 5 stages. They believe in the medical field. I'm not a medical doctor. I only play one on TV. So the first is stage one, and that's where you see tremors. Now, Michael J. Fox has external tremors that you might see uncontrollable shaking. That's what led me to want to write the book on policing if we have time later to get to. But so you'll see tremors. My mother had more internal. However, towards the end of her life, she did start having the external where you just, you can't stop. It's nothing. They do have
oh,
medications to control it, but the medication can cause other issues, which destroys the stomach and the gut. So
mm-hmm.
again, stage one and two, it's kind of now you're seeing a little rigidity, bradykinesia. My mother had dystonia, which is your toes curl, and you can't stop it, which is also horrible. But then you see difficulty breathing, not breathing, but walking and balancing. But it starts getting worse at stage three. Symptoms are now mid stage, more severe. The person though can still live alone, but they might have problems with balance, bathing, eating, and dressing. So, we hired a staff and we fired 10 companies and went to 80 members, caregivers, because we couldn't find someone who knew what Parkinson's was or that cared much about my mother. And my dream with them was just not to let her fall. Like I didn't care if they couldn't help her with Parkinson, but I knew if she fell, it would be over. So
Right.
it was a horrible, it's in the book, but it was a whole chapter of how hard it is to find, good caregivers. So now we move to the sadder ones, and I hope no one's going to cry. But stage 4 and 5 are tough. This is where independent living is almost impossible. Stage 4, you have to have a person because you also might need a walker, but there's an increase limitations from eating, bathing, dressing, sleeping, and walking. And then the worst is 5, where now you're talking, and not everyone gets this, but that night where I rushed my mother to the hospital, I never even heard of hallucinations and delusions. And that often is scarier than the actual disease because people, they don't know it's real. So they might be laughing with you saying their dog is on their lap, but there's no dog there. She thought
Oh.
she saw, and then so there were good times where she thought her parents were in the room, which was beautiful in a way, but sad. But
Mm.
then the times where all the aides we had, she thought were harming her like violently. So we had to put in video cameras, and as a police officer, I was worried. So I thankfully I could monitor. That's why we didn't put her in a home. I wouldn't have been able to monitor her, but not putting her in a home was like really damaging to my mental health as I went through
Yeah.
like every stage you can dream of. And one chapter in the book, I actually kept a journal, which I never shared, and it timestamps and dates the last year of her life and what it was like to be as a caregiver. If you do want to see that, you'll know. I mean, it's right there, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But those were tough. And then finally, the loss of smell, the constipation, the show that you probably wouldn't want to do, but I actually did a show on it, but it destroys your stomach, the medicines. And then there's also poor reasoning, weight loss was very bad, sleep and we had to pay $12,000 a month for several months because she didn't sleep. So we couldn't just have one woman or man come and be a caregiver. I don't call them caregivers. I don't want to be rude, but I call them babysitters because they were really just making sure she didn't fall. They didn't have any
Yeah.
and finally vision problem, but the sleep was a problem because she didn't sleep. So she would call me at all hours of the night. As it progressed, even the last year, we had to take her phone out because she called the police on the aides saying that they were harming her. The police showed up once, and another time I had to remove a gun because I got her a gun. She lived alone. She was a female. That's why I thought it was important too. Before I get to the next question, your show is very important. Why? Not for many reasons, but there's a very bad misconception of Parkinson's disease, and it used to be known as the elderly man disease, but today young people are getting it in their 30s, 20s.
Oh.
Women is a big issue. There's not enough awareness on my show, which we just started. I don't know why I have a show. It's only but I mean, we started a month or two ago. We've already done 70 episodes, which is not smart.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna have to cut back, but I just want to bring up last thing is that the last week we interviewed 5 women with Parkinson's, and I found so many incredible areas that I'm a man and I can't really discuss, but from menstruation issues to being pregnant while having Parkinson's, there's so many issues that people need to know. Like there
Oh
are women
my.
out there now going through that and they feel completely alone. And a lot of literature is not about women, which needs to change. So if you
Mm.
are a female out there and interested in Parkinson's or a loved one, if you go to my website again, TogetherForSharon.com, click podcast, you'll see 70 shows, many women, people, and it's just incredible to be able to do like what we're doing to talk to people.
Wow. I did not know that it was younger people in their 30s or 40s were getting it.
Yeah.
I
They're actually getting worse than ever. And as you probably know, Michael J. Fox is a hero of mine and many, not really for the shows and movies, but because he could have went away and been quiet, which some people do private, but he came out and really fought and he's raised over, I think, $2 billion for research for a cure. But when I met him, he wasn't doing well. And then just a month ago, he was on stage with a rock band called, I'm going blank, figures Coldplay. I don't know if you
oh.
saw that. And but
Mm-mm.
he was in a wheelchair playing guitar, and 5 years ago he was not in a wheelchair. So I just am concerned, and you can see he's really the face and the hero of Parkinson's awareness, and just working
Mm.
out with us. Obviously, we'll still keep fighting for him, but it's going to be a heartbreak.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been several years since he came out with that. Is
Yeah,
that right?
he had a 30. I think he's probably in his late 50s or maybe, but I don't want to say that. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. That's like decades. And I'm trying hard. I don't know if anyone out there is listening, but my dream is to take the book and turn it into a documentary, and I won't accept a penny if we make anything, but there's no real documentaries about Parkinson. They have a few. Michael J. Fox had the best one, of course, or I think just made 2 years ago on Apple TV. If you have time, look up Michael J. Fox. But there's not a lot of like I always get sad because you see Oprah Winfrey, Katie Couric, and all these big shows and like the Lifetime channel, but I've never seen except for maybe one, shows on
Mm,
Parkinson. But I think it's needed, and I think my mother's journey and her story would have been a great one for everyone out there.
right. Yeah. Yes. Is so. Is there any clue of what might be bringing this on, especially now? Like, I mean, had all these people having being diagnosed with Parkinson's now getting younger. Is it our food? Is it the air? Like, what is it out there that it's causing this?
That's a very important question. So they don't think it's genetics, but in a lot of my interviews, I've found many of the people, it's been in their father, their grandfather, their mother. So, but I don't know if I'll get it yet. So I'll have to keep in touch to
Mhm.
let you know. But so right now, I'm a strong believer it's the environment. I've spoken to many experts, and
Yeah.
again, the things that they put in our food and fruits, the pesticides, the bug spray. They have something called paraquat, which is banned in China but not in the US. So the number one thing we need to do is get in touch with our legislators and tell them we want things like paraquat banned. We want, the famous lawsuit Camp Lejeune, where the chemicals in the water cause all the military base, whether it's families and our veterans, that gain Parkinson's and dementia and horrible other illnesses. And that was due to chemicals in the water. But like I said, things even shockingly, I didn't know, but your dry cleaning. I was on a podcast interviewing a very famous doctor who wrote a book on Parkinson's, and he was telling me even the chemicals they use in our dry cleaning could cause it. As he was speaking, I wanted to think of a way to rip my suit open, but it was scary. So, and I still wear it. So now they say take it outside when you come home, let it air out for 10 minutes, and then put it in your house. So sometimes I don't do it, but there's ways.
Oh,
Food is huge. Like problem is even there. You take another sad example in America, at least the healthier we eat, the more expensive it is. So a lot of people can't afford that. But
yeah.
if you have that organic, type of diet, is less likely you're going to have these things. Also, the worst thing in the world is the chemicals, like the pesticides. I just realized the other day, 2024, my bug company will not come in the house, which is great. 10 years ago, that's not how it worked. They'd spray everything. You'd
Right.
worry about your dog dying, but then your family. There's a famous case in Florida where I am, and a little child died because they bombed the house, with the for roaches or something, and they came home too early, and their son.
Oh,
Uh, I'm worried about the FDA. We trust our lives with a lot of the government, and some of them just aren't doing the right thing, or their eyes aren't open enough. But
yeah.
finally, again, the pesticides are a big problem because my mother had a beautiful home in Florida, and she lived there for 20 years, but she had mold, she had termites, and they sprayed who knows what. So I think that 100% is what did it. We were finally a son's dream. I bought her own house, but unfortunately, it was like the last year of her life, and it had a beautiful lake, brand new built. I thought she'd sit there for 10 years. She loves blowing bubbles on Sundays with her three grandchildren. Now I walk by in my backyard, and we don't have that anymore. So it sucks. Sorry for the
Yeah.
French, but so I think that definitely, in my view, was what did it because she had no other medical issues.
Yeah, I think you're right on point. I mean, I've heard that there's a lot of things that are put in our food over here that are banned over in places in Europe. They don't even use it, but we can use it here. And I saw just recently someone did a reel and they compared the saying was, well, back in back when I was younger, I could eat this stuff. And they compared, which was true, like comparing the ingredients of certain foods that we used to eat when we were younger to what they are now. There are so many more ingredients of, chemicals and artificial things in there. So it's we're not eating to be healthy. We eat to get sick, it seems that way. And um, I was actually just visiting my mom in Florida, and the bug guy came around, and he came inside
Huh.
when I was
Who
making my breakfast. I'm like, oh my
knows where?
God. Like, I just said a silent prayer, like, please just bless this food and keep it safe because,
Okay.
so who knows what the heck happened from that, I guess I'll find out years from now, but
And that's
yeah.
one thing again, the book is so important. It's just hard because it's self-published, because it's not, I think the number one problem with awareness is unless Parkinson's affects you and your family, you kind of don't, have time and worry. But then when it does, it's like a brick wall falls on you. So I'm trying to get the word out now before you don't have to plan. Hopefully you never have it in your lifetime, but there are others like a neighbor, could be your UPS driver that has it. And it's so important just to be aware, where you don't have to do much. Just, you don't even have to buy the book, but you can buy the book. I also talk about a lot of topics. So it's not just for people with Parkinson's, it's for caregivers who, for any disease, really, dementia, Alzheimer's, ALS. But I also cover the first signs of Parkinson's, some of the symptoms and treatments. My caregiving, my wife and children's chapter she wrote is without her, I wouldn't have gone through caregiving or even being an advocate today. Because some days, we'll talk about tough things and I'm fine. I'm 200 pounds, look cop, and, I'm 6'2", but I'll leave her, I'll fall apart because it's tough. We picked the
Mm,
cover of the book because it's actually one moment, short moment, but at my wedding, the mother son dance, and in those 3 minutes, Parkinson didn't exist. And my mother was so happy. We were joking and laughing, and Parkinson's could never take that from me or us. So, but also I talk about trying to find good aids, great caregiving, her last week of her life, which was a tough one. Then I had a great idea. Why not have a chapter where all of my mother's friends from her whole life, from childhood and above, who wrote a little passage about her and when they heard about she got Parkinson. I also talk about the aftermath, but more importantly, the mission forward and how grateful I am to so many people. And I list a lot of people. I'd have to go back and add you and your audience, because if without you all, I don't think I'd be able to be here, because it's tough days. I spent a lot of nights not sleeping, wondering, what we could have done, even though I know we couldn't have. I kind of
mm,
joke a little that the only regret I have is that I wish I had the technology to have a podcast with my mother, but not about Parkinson's or other stuff, but about life. I would have had one about her life, one about mine, what about my childhood. That would have been a dream, because I would have had that now to share, but I didn't, she would have loved it. It's like she was always up for it, but you don't know about this. Plus we didn't have the technology then, but so I do encourage everyone out there to love your loved ones. If you had an argument, just forget it. Take care of
mhm.
your own health first, which I didn't do, and I don't do it today, but I have my own reasons. There's too much to be done before we find a cure. But those are some of the interesting tips, and there's a lot of positive in the book. There's a little sadness, but like I said, my goal is that everyone knows that they're not alone.
Yeah, I love that message. I love that message. What would what would have made you, do you think your mom's experience a little bit, I mean, if she had to go through it, what could have been made it better for her and for you as a caregiver? What I guess what do you think she needed or you needed?
Think it would have been maybe more people support like that had Parkinson's, because at the time, again, I didn't know anything. We called a lot of organizations, but one did show up, which was beautiful, and that's why we've donated to the American Parkinson Disease Association. And also, if you go to the website, click donations, you'll see a few, 4 or 5 organizations. Any money, they made this beautiful link in memory of my mother, and any donations go to them. So we don't have any, we don't accept.
Mm,
So nice, like Michael J. Fox Foundation. We donated over $30,000 in the last 4 years of our own money. I'm not good at fundraising. It's the one I can't figure out how I reach the world but can't get anyone to donate, which is fine. I don't want, but I always said if everyone sent a quarter, we would have millions of dollars and it would be amazing. But it's one thing I'm good at it, but I couldn't figure it out. So we just donate ourselves. But I wish we had more human beings at the house that could have either support her, or if she had seen, and now they're virtual. They didn't have that, like been in a room, even a support group with other people with Parkinson's, because that's why she felt alone, because I didn't have
yeah.
Parkinson's. I didn't have answers. Also, I don't like how, and I can't changing because I'm not a medical doctor, but I don't allow medical offices and they don't have time. But behind your brochure and say good luck and see you in 6 months. Well, it's pointless. And all doctors really can do is give some medicines and things that might slow like a tremor, but doesn't slow the progression. And now I learned there are many ways in exercise and fitness that can slow the progression. It was too late for my mother. But if you
Oh,
catch it early and I mean, on my website, I've interviewed hundreds of people. Some do push-ups for Parkinson's, yoga for Parkinson's, Tai Chi for Parkinson's, had somebody on like basketball for I mean, there's every sport. You have to do at least 30 to 40 minutes a day, whether you're the caregiver or the person for Parkinson's, and actually slow down the progression of the disease. It's also dancing for Parkinson's. I mean, I could go on. I didn't know about any of this, and that's why the website's so important.
yeah.
It's a completely free resource. I list everything, and it's not just in Florida; it's around the world. You can look on the website, see if somebody you know your interests you. If you don't like that, now pickleball is big. They have pickleball for Parkinson's, so really, there's no excuse. And now you can do everything from home. You don't have to have like put on a shirt, but you could be naked. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's
I'm
like
not encouraging it, but
so. So what I'm hearing is basically physical movement is a good preventer or a good, keeping it at bay. Yeah,
yeah, that's
which
part.
which looks at our society, which is so sedentary nowadays, right? So the uptick of this disease makes sense.
Yeah.
If oh
The other thing is with the interview books, and unfortunately, it's like now 2024. I did some of them in 2023. It'll be out, but in a few years, I don't know how valid a lot. But I put the website and the email of every single speaker or interviewee so that you can reach out. Let's say, oh, George, I had enough of you. I don't want to talk to you. You can go directly to the person. That's what it's about. I'm just sharing valuable resources and people out there who I feel like a conduit in a way. I don't know what, and sometimes what that means, but almost like you have you have this amazing stories and then you have the people who are unaware. I just bring them together, and I don't want a penny. I don't want anything. I don't have to say anything to me. I just want them to get
yeah,
help and understand they're not alone.
yeah,
And
you're a connector.
yeah,
You're connecting people to yeah, because everybody, I love that because we all resonate to different things. We might people might have the same disease, but you have certain, like, I didn't know there were internal tremors. I didn't know. I always thought it was the external shaking, and so it'd be helpful to you know talk to people who have this kind of symptom. How are they coping with it? So yeah, the work you're doing is remarkable, and just getting more eyes on your website, that's all. That's what needs to be done.
yeah. I mean, there's so much I want to do. It's hard because the money sometimes, and I don't accept. So we might someday, and like I hope we have a cure, and we won't have to. But in 10 years, when I have a little less work, maybe, and my children are out in college, maybe I'll start a foundation, which we could do. My only thing with that is what I really wanted to do is have scholarships for future neurologists who will specifically study or
Mm,
care for Parkinson's, and I can't do that as a regular. I just don't have the funding. So that is one area. Maybe in 10 years, I hope again we don't have to do this, but if it is still out there, I'll still be fighting. But I think we'll have to turn this into an actual foundation. So we'll see. But for now,
mm.
we fight on without that. But also, that brings on a lot of other things. Like you have to pay a lot of fees to the state, to the government, and taxes. Like you got to be kidding me. So
Right. Yeah. Well, you do what you can at the moment, and you never know, as more people get more aware of you and what you are advocating for. There's always, who knows, there's always that person who might just be like, this is where I want to put my money
yeah.
towards, or there's, you never know. You never
The
know.
other thing with that is I would have to like remove the donations from all the other organizations and start our own, which is fine. But I do like in a way helping others, and they have some great programs. Drive Toward a Cure is California. They do race car driving for Parkinson's, and the
Mm,
person in charge, Deb, has become like family. That I could never duplicate something like that. Obviously, we could still support them, but it's just kind of I like helping the others, like Michael J. Fox and American Parkinson's Disease Association and Power Over Parkinson's. But if we went to that, and I write about that in the third book about maybe someday I do have to take it to our own foundation because oddly enough, my third book will be a little controversial because I feel that some days I don't have a place, like they don't have a spot for people like me. I don't really have, I love to speak and I don't have time, so it's fine. But I've been to so many events now live. I've never been asked once to be a speaker. And I think it's because they don't want to, hear about the badder side of Parkinson's or that my mother's no longer here. They want people, alive, and that's fine. But I think that that's a big problem because I think if you bring back the millions, the billions of people who lost someone, we would have been closer to a cure. Instead, I feel like we're excluded in a way. Obviously, a lot of the people with Parkinson's have become family and they're amazing, but there is 1% of people who won't work with me, which is odd, especially when I tell you I'm like my show. If you watch my podcast, the first minute is I introduce the speaker and they tell a little bit about themselves. Then boom, the whole show, like a big majority, I share their website and all their programs, and then we thank them. And so the show is about them. It's to help people learn about them.
Hmm.
And I'm shocked that like one out of like 102 people organization didn't want to come on the show, which I talk about because I don't hide anything. I'm very honest. No, there's no reason to, but I'm just baffled in a way because I feel strongly if we're not all family in the fight for a cure, that we're going to be further from it. So, of course,
Mm.
thankfully, it's only 1% out of the 100, but I'm just kind of those are the. It's almost like when you're a teacher or any career, a nurse, you have that one person who's tough, tough, and then millions who would love you. But that one tough one is like, why am I doing this?
Oh no, yeah, a tendency to just focus on that, but yeah, we got to shift to, like you said, the thousands and that are really helping and want to promote and support you. Yeah, I want to put too much emphasis on the rotten egg there.
I don't know why I do that. I got to get.
So before we started recording, you mentioned with the it was the something about getting Parkinson's and the police force.
Yeah, this is. I can't wait. Like in a way, I don't want time to fast forward because I'm just turned, a little older this year and falling apart. I just had like a few surgeries in my back, and just today got injections in my back, which wasn't fun, but we fight on. So I try with this topic of awareness. I try to think of areas like literally that no one's touched on, and it's shocking when I find it and so easily. Well, my background is a lawyer and police. So I'm actually working with a group of three other individuals who are one is actually a lawyer with Parkinson's disease, and others are advocates and they have Parkinson's, and we're all joining together. And not for a few years, we're going to publish a book on the law in Parkinson's. It's going to cover things like losing your job because of the disease and
Mm.
ADA and all these incredible things that people aren't aware. And it's going to be a book that's important because I don't think a lot of people with Parkinson's can't afford to pay 300 an hour to some lawyers for just some information. So this will be really change the world for many. But before I get to that one, the next one I'm finally done with. It's in editing. Might take a few months, maybe a year. So I don't want to keep putting too much. It's costly as a self-publisher. If you have any publishers out there interested, please reach out. I've had trouble too with media. They don't respond. So I've written 15 letters to celebrities and media, and just keep trying and trying. I don't know if you know, I'm going to lose my thought of the policing. Get back to 1 second, but
Okay.
it's kind of sad in a way. But all more and more celebrities, I don't know if you notice, are coming out of nowhere. Ryan Reynolds just made a huge statement about his father's fight with Parkinson's that no one knew about, and how scary delusions and hallucinations are. And that's
Mm.
something that people don't really talk. But now that's big platform. I reached out, I didn't get a response, which is fine. But there are more and more people. Willie Geist, the famous broadcaster from NBC, his father, I believe, has it. Chuck Schumer, I think his mother or father has it. Jesse Jackson has it. There's more and more individuals.
Oh.
Ozzy Osbourne, Jack Osbourne. I have a video from him on my website about Ozzy. We were able to reach Kenny G, who's a famous saxophone player. He played a song and sent a message in memory of my mother. It's on the website. So now we even have a celebrity section, and it's for those fighting the disease. I also have Muhammad Ali's daughter. So it's Leah Thompson from Back to the Future gave me a message, really trying to get Doc from Back to the Future.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm close because he'll be a good one. And they're all friends with Michael J. Fox. So and Michael J. Fox is up there too. But to go backwards, so I was, doing research and I heard a story and I was kind of horrified being a police officer. Yeah, a gentleman said, won't name him, but he was driving late at night and he, tremors is a sign of Parkinson. So he was kind of uncontrollably shaking. And the police pulled him over. Luckily, it ended well because he explained who he was. He was actually famous. But anyway, I just picture now the next day and I tell the story. Imagine, if you will, for a moment, here's my prosecutor, but you're driving along the road. It could be 6 o'clock, doesn't matter what time, maybe it's dark out and you didn't take the medicine right time or they wore off. So you're kind of uncontrollably shaking and an officer spots you. Well, in their training, because they're not trained, most of them, with Parkinson's disease, they're going to either think you might be DUI or drugs, and
Yeah.
it's not going to end well. A lot of officers, and that I'm blaming for their safety, might have a gun ready now, and the person might still be flailing and who knows what. And I just did a lot of research. I have like 200 references in the book. So I really like more of a scholarly paper book, not just a regular book like my first one. But what I did is I created an actual I'm a researcher for criminal justice, but I put my research hat on, the PhD, and I created an instrument and a questionnaire. I interviewed about 20 to 30 police around the world, around the US, on their experiences, if they even heard of Parkinson's. I also interviewed about 10 people with Parkinson's, and they shared their journey with police, whether it was positive, negative, or neutral. And the findings are kind of sad. So I'm not going to share
Wow.
it yet. When it's out, I will. And
Yeah.
then finally, the biggest part of this is I contacted one police academy in every single state in the United States, and I got quotes and research and referenced them of their training manuals. And I will share, I was shocked to find that I'd say almost 100% list dementia, Alzheimer's, but nothing about Parkinson's. So my dream is to work with the Michael J. Fox or anyone out there, the policy, because they've become like family. And I'd like to go to the legislature someday, Congress, and ask them to add Parkinson's disease into every academy throughout the nation. So if I could do that, again, none of that's money. I'm not going to make a penny, which I don't care, but I think I'd love to do that to just change the world for safety for police and for the people with Parkinson's.
How? Oh my gosh. Yes, I mean, that was something I would never have even thought of, but it makes so much sense now that you bring it up. Um,
You might be shocked, but again, there's nothing. There's not one. I hate saying it because I don't want someone to run out there before me. But there isn't one book on Parkinson's and policing in the world. Like I have extensive hours on Amazon searching, even articles. There's nothing. I found like 6 on just the topic of policing of Parkinson's, and I put them in the book. But those are just like officers who have Parkinson's who are retired, and that does not. I mean, that's not the same. There's
no,
actually
right.
one officer who has Parkinson's, and I won't name her or him, but she won't. I can't use her because she doesn't want. She hasn't even told her department, so it's
Hmm.
sad. You should be able to share that, but that's a debilitating disease, and you probably have to resign after some time. So, and she's young.
Mm, wow.
But I think that one will be groundbreaking. And then I'm working on a children's book, which is not going to be easy because we want to do it from my mother's voice to my kids, so it's complicated because it's not me. So I had to put my grandma shoes on. And
Yes.
that one's the exciting one because that's another. Besides women, children and Parkinson's a big problem because I still to the day have trouble explaining to my children what the heck happened. And my youngest one doesn't remember her because he was so young. The middle
Mm.
one does, but my oldest was her favorite in the world because my mother had 2 boys and she always dreamt of having a girl because she wanted to dress them up and buy the dolls. And I'll never forget, my wife and I were sitting in a restaurant and told my mother we're pregnant and my wife's pregnant and we're having a girl, and she cried and we were all so happy. That's another moment. Like I wish I had video, but so my daughter and her became best friends, even though she was 7 at the time. And it's hard still today because, my mother used to say at her last year, am I going to be here for Brooke's wedding? And I never
Oh,
said yes or no because we didn't know. But I mean, even that day is going to be tough for me.
right. Yeah.
And she was
Wow.
young. My mother was only 69. To me, that's like a baby. That's not old.
No, there's so much more life ahead yeah, yeah, that she was deprived of from the disease, most definitely. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I know whoever listens to this is more wiser, more educated, more aware of this disease, of what to look for, of how it affects not only the person who is struggling with it, but the family members as well. And it's, I mean, I could just cry because I feel so humbled just being in the presence of the remarkable selfless work that you are doing, and it's making a difference. You know, I think it might be, sometimes we never know who, you know, we touch when we become kind of a public figure in such a way, right? Where we're getting our message out, but sometimes we just don't know who is being positively affected by it. But we have to know that there's so many people out there that are better for this. They're more aware, they're more educated, and more. I also believe what I'm understanding from your mission here is for people to dig a little bit more deeper, you know, and like be curious about what this disease is, how they can help themselves with it, or other people that they might know, be better support and advocates for people who are going through this, and, you know, possibly taking, you know, doing the things that they can keep healthier in their own bodies as well.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is I do again want to thank you in the audience, because I'm glad you were able to let one guy on the show. But I would love to reach out, to more women shows, because women and Parkinson's is a big issue and it's just being neglected. So by you spotlighting it means the world.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, who was a female. So, it's like very important. And again, there's so many women out there now having this disease that are just not sure where to turn or who to turn. And one of them might be listening to the show. And also, on a last note, it's very important, everyone, to, well, I have a little message. So we love you all. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with your beautiful and amazing hosts, will advocate for you. And together, I feel our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started, because when I had the opportunity to speak to you before and learn about your audience, it just inspires me to keep fighting, knowing that there could be one person that might need just a helping hand, and to know they're not alone. Now they have resources. They have so many. I had one gentleman, it's funny, he wrote to me and said, I spent 10 hours reading your interviews. I'm like, don't do that. I don't want you to spend that, just look a little and come back. But that's, it's a free resource. It's like this is not Shark Tank. I'm not going to say, but wait, there's more. There's no catch. When you go there, you'll see a lot of things. I have a section now for other authors. Like I list about 30 books people with Parkinson's who wrote books, and you can get them on Amazon, because I want them to also be kind of known. There's just something for everyone. The celebrities now, which is kind of weird. This is not fun, but it's just a lot of things out there, and it's growing. And like I said, in 5 years from now, I'll probably have like several books, which will be amazing. But if we don't get these out there, it's just a dusty thing. So I please encourage your audience to share this, not really for me, but just for your show and your credible audience, because this is a conversation that can't end yet. I'll be sharing it not just once, probably several times a year forever, because again, it's not going to change until we find a cure. But it's not like a conversation for an hour and see you, have a nice life, bye.
Right. Yes.
Something that you have to keep sharing, or we'll be further from a cure. So again, I'm so grateful for your time and friendship, and we send our love to you, your family, and the audience. And I hope to someday add your in memory of your family member on Together for Sharon.
I will. I have my little post-it here to share that journey.
No rush.
Yes, my post-its.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.